Okay, quick response to Gary video. It's bad world. Response to my video about dystopian futures as displayed in films, and are they really so dystopian? I've got some notes here, Gary, so I'll try and pick up on it. But there's only really one point, so I might just stop halfway through and just cut to the chase. Really. Jeez, there's a huge bee just. Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, you're talking about this, the time machine, and how I portray that as a perfectly balanced society, and therefore I don't really think it's a perfect society that the Eloi and the Morlocks are in, but I do think it's perfectly balanced. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a good thing, but it was, yeah, perfectly balanced society. You say that these people are blueprints of a non-human, and then you go on to say, because I described the scene in which one of the Eloi, one of these blonde kind of hominids is drowning and nobody does anything about it. You say, how could human beings that are so disinterested? So I think that they are blueprints of non-humans, and human beings couldn't be that disinterested, and that's pretty much the exact point I was making. Really, they're not human beings, because human beings, as currently instantiated and valorized and celebrated, are what you would call bacteria with brains, or maggots eating matter, and all the valorization I think that surrounds that is a little bit of a problem. But probably a problem without a solution, I have to say. But that's something else, and it's one that we're all prey to. I mean, you described the woman that's drowning, the Eloi, as a hot chick. It's a hot chick that's drowning, and of course none of the male Eloi save her, because the male Eloi are clearly either gay or English. They're all got these fey pudding basin haircuts, and they're all wearing these like dresses. None of them have got any muscles or knows how to clench a fist. So they're not James Bond. There's no James Bond in Eloi land. And I think that's underpinning a lot of what you say. And I'll try and get back to that James Bond thing at the end, really, because you're in the same cleft stick that I think I am, really, which is that the kind of affection for being human, or not being able to step outside the box of being human, even to talk about the problems of humanity. So I'll see if I can get to that at the end. You talk about intelligence and how there's no intelligence, and that's in the land of the time machine, and you're right. But the intelligence, what's so great about that? I mean, it's really hard for me, and I guess for you as well, to think what to do with that, really, because intelligence is so low, and it is part of our humanity. It is the thing that suggests a way out of a lot of the difficulties that we have, and part of that ambition to find ways out, that is that sense of purposiveness. Whether that's a way out to the purposiveness of science, or through religion, or through philosophy, or through civics, or something like that. We can't imagine. I can't imagine anyway a utopia that doesn't have intelligence in it, or even the point of a universe without intelligence in it. It just seems pointless. But that feeling of, well, that would be pointless, is coming from my humanity. So again, I'm just being human-centered when I recognise that, and it's not something I can get out of, and it's certainly not something I would wish to change. It's just something I guess I have to live with, and like we all do, really, that we can only speak from the place we're at, really. I don't think that made any sense, but never mind. Yeah, you talk about changing the equation. We're still talking about the time machine. The Eloi, the Morlocks, or changing the equation so the Morlocks are different. Would it be okay for the Morlocks to harvest the Eloi for food if the Morlocks were intelligent book readers? Well, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. We're Morlocks, and the rest of the animal kingdom are the Eloi. And since I'm a veggie, and I think you are as well, I think I'm not okay with that. It doesn't really change it. It just recreates the current state of existence, which you're trying to get beyond. So I think, if anything, that would be a backward step. I have less problem with a relatively stupid animal nature preying on other aspects of animal nature. I have less problem with that than I have with supposedly intelligent human nature preying on animals. So, no, so I don't think that would be an improvement. I would much prefer bestial Morlocks preying on stupid Eloi than smart Morlocks preying on stupid Eloi. I think that would be a retrograde step. Okay, something about the limits of our imagination. Later on, you're talking about Star Wars and the problems of that, and how in science fiction films they're often just dramatizations of existing fears and desires. You have this sense, and of astronauts flying across the galaxy to get some pussy, which is, yeah, of course, that's exactly how they do it, and that's exactly what they're about, and that's pretty much what I was critiquing. But in a sense, that's what you're saying should happen in the time machine. This guy from the 19th century should fly across the eons into the whatever it is, whatever century in the future that the Eloi and the Morlocks live, in order to get some pussy, and that's effectively what he does. He cops off with one of the hot chick that you mentioned later on. And that's the narrative. Somebody who's a relative barbarian brings humanity to the consciousness it seems to have lost by evolving into whatever those creatures are. So it's the same story, really. Okay, you talk a little bit about how I seem to be okay with death and struggle and suffering. Yeah, well, I hope it's clear that I'm not. What I'm trying to struggle with, and it's not really a struggle, but what I'm entertaining myself with, in terms of these films at least, is two things. Firstly, that things that look like death and struggle and suffering might not actually be death and struggle and suffering. That's one thing, because we might be looking at them with human values that are no longer relevant. It's possible. I don't know. Maybe. I'm also thinking that Hollywood, respecting human values and trying to play up to human values, seems to be often, in many cases, presenting images of a society in which death and struggle and suffering are overstated. There's no real indication why the vampires in I Am Legend couldn't just organise themselves a bit better, find ways to, I don't know, just organise, but then there's never a suggestion they could organise. They're just ravaging monsters, and with all the struggle and suffering and pain that comes with that. So it's partly that, but also there's a weird paradox there, because the opposite is often true. The other future that's presented in some of the films that I've talked about, and which you are equally resistant to, Gary, is a future in which struggle and suffering and pain have disappeared. The Borg future. I mean, what you say here, and this is really revealing. I could have just read this out and stopped the video there, really. You say, to live in a society where my ego doesn't exist anymore, and I can't have that feeling of victory. Whoever wants to live in that world, fuck it. I mean, that is so revealing, not just of you, but of everything, really, of everything. I mean, my wife's American, and I know a lot of Americans, and just trying to get Americans to admit that Canada might be a nice place to live, or getting English people to admit that Denmark might be okay, society with marginally better civics and marginally better healthcare systems and social structures is bad enough. Trying to imagine getting people to live in a future in which those things are taken to the nth degree is an impossibility, really, because everybody has this thing that you've got. We love the idea of being barbarians, admittedly James Bond type barbarians, when we're quite separated from the pain and the direct results. All of our pain is carried out through special rendition, but it's we are fucking barbarians, and I think that's particularly true of men. I have to say, you know what I mean. We are. This is something Bark Lord said in a video a while back. I'm a fucking barbarian. It's true, and Dances with Napalm, one of his videos recently, is about barbarians. We love being fucking barbarians, particularly men, and it's part of male sexiness is barbarians, which is why the men in the time machine, the Eloi men, are all gay English, fey, bow cut, blonde woofters. It's all that, really. So I don't know. we have to just get over ourselves, I think, really. Or not. Anyway, thanks very much for that, Gary.